Okay, so picture this. You're an entrepreneur. Sales are humming along, the team's busy, things are definitely moving. But, and this is the big one, are you just busy or are you actually building a business that's going to last? Something that's truly profitable in the long run. How can you really be sure? Well, that's exactly what we're going to dive into right now. Seriously, just stop and think about that for a second. We're not just talking about the money you make from one sale. Nope. We're talking about the whole relationship, the entire journey with a customer. So, do you actually know what each customer you bring in is worth? Because I'm telling you, finding that number, it changes absolutely everything.
It's so easy to fall into this trap of just chasing revenue. I mean, you could be bringing in money hand over fist, but if it's costing you more to get a customer than they'll ever pay you, well, you're on a fast track to nowhere. So in this explainer, we're going to give you the one tool, the one key metric that lets you answer that question with total confidence. All right, first up, let's really frame the problem here. We're calling it the profitability question. And honestly, this is the one challenge that every single business has to figure out if it wants to survive. And the answer to that question, it's all about finding your North Star. That one single metric that guides all your big decisions, from how much to spend on marketing to what features you should build next. And that North Star, my friends, is customer lifetime value. You'll hear it called LTV. So what exactly is LTV? Let's get super clear on this. It's the total net profit, and I'm going to say that again, profit, not revenue, that you can reasonably expect to make from one customer over their entire relationship with you. That difference between profit and revenue is absolutely crucial. We're talking about the money that actually ends up in your pocket. And this quote really nails why this is so important. LTV isn't some dusty accounting term, right? It's a strategic checkpoint. It makes you get real about what actually drives your business, making sure you're focused on what's going to keep you around for the long haul. Okay, so you've got this number. What's a good number? Well, the magic number, the golden ratio you're aiming for, is 3-to-1. What that means is for every single dollar you spend to get a new customer, that's your cost of customer acquisition or COCA, you should be getting at least $3 back in lifetime value. That 3-to-1 ratio is what gives you a healthy cushion to pay for all your other costs and, actually make a profit. All right, so how do we actually get to this powerful number? Let's break it down. Think of it like a recipe. We need to look at the key ingredients. Okay, so to figure out your LTV, you're going to need 5 key pieces of the puzzle. First, your revenue streams. That's your one-time sales and any recurring fees. Then you need the gross margin for each of those. And then we get to the really juicy stuff, your customer retention rate, which is just how good you are at keeping customers around. After that, your cost of capital, basically what your money could be earning elsewhere. And finally, the lifespan of your product. Let's zoom in on that retention rate for a second, because this one is a huge lever for your business. Simply put, it's the percentage of customers who stick with you year after year. It's a fantastic measure of how happy they are and how much value they're getting from you. Now, this is a great way to think about it. Retention and churn are basically two sides of the exact same coin. Retention is the good stuff, the percentage of customers you keep. Churn is the bad stuff, the percentage you lose. They're direct opposites. So your job is to push that retention number way up, which naturally shoves the churn rate way down. Okay, enough theory. Theory is great, but let's get our hands dirty and make this real. We're going to walk through a practical example and actually calculate the LTV for a made-up company we'll call Widget Co. So here are the numbers we're working with for Widget Co. They sell this widget for a $10,000 one-time fee. And on top of that, there's an annual maintenance fee. Now, check this out. The gross margin on the widget itself is 65%, but on the maintenance, it's a super healthy 85%. They're pretty good at keeping customers with a 90% retention rate each year. But, and this is a big but, their cost of capital is a whopping 50%, which is pretty typical for a startup, honestly. All right, let's crunch some numbers. In year 0, the year they buy, we get that big hit of profit from the widget sale, $6,500, plus a little bit for maintenance. But then look at year 1 and year 2. Now the only profit is coming from that recurring maintenance. And you can see it starts to drop off a little bit, right? That's because of that 10% churn rate. We're losing a few customers each year.
Okay, but here's a super important catch. We can't just add up all these profit numbers. Think about it. A dollar you might make 5 years from now is worth less than a dollar you have in your hand today. Why? Well, it's that cost of capital again. So we have to discount all that future profit to figure out what it's really worth today. And that's called finding its present value. This is the key to getting a real, accurate LTV.
So let's see how this actually works. Just look at what happens in the later years. In year 4, the raw profit is over $800. Not bad. But because our cost of capital is so high, the present value of that money is only about $52. Crazy, right? That discount factor just gets more and more aggressive over time, shrinking the value of those future profits. So, drum roll please. After all that number crunching, what's the final answer? We add up the present value from all 5 years, and boom. For WidgetCo, the lifetime value of one customer is $8,300.06. And just like that, they have their North Star. They now know they absolutely cannot spend more than roughly a third of that to get a new customer.
Okay, so knowing your LTV is awesome. It's powerful stuff. But you know what's even more powerful? Knowing how to make that number go up. So now the real question is, what levers can you actually pull in your business to make every customer even more valuable? Basically, you've got 4 main levers to pull. First, you can try to increase your gross margins, maybe by getting your costs down. Second, you can work on improving customer retention, and we already saw how powerful that is. Third, you can find ways to upsell your existing customers. And fourth, you could even rethink your whole business model, maybe shift them more towards that high-margin recurring revenue we talked about.
And look, if you're wondering which of those 4 to start with, I'll give you a hint. It's this one. Focus on retention. It is almost always cheaper and easier to keep the customers you already have than to go out and find new ones. Even a tiny little improvement in your retention rate can have a huge, huge impact on your LTV. So let's land the plane with this thought. Calculating your LTV, this isn't just some homework assignment. It is a call to action. It gives you a roadmap, that North Star we talked about. It tells you exactly what a customer is worth to your business. So the only real question left is, now that you know, what are you going to do about it?